Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to today's edition of the afternoon edition. My name is Isa Nu. Today, we shall be focusing on the World Drug Day, and as you know, popularly known as the International Day for Drugs, and it's a very important day. As at yesterday, so many groups of people have started preparing for this particular day with respect to how the impact of drug is in our society. And even just yesterday, we had the secretary of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, in person of Mr. Shedrack, who was there during our morning program to tell us about the issue of drug abuse in the country. But today, our focus will also be on looking basically at the community level. What can we do with respect to this? So, by the resolution of 14112 of 7th of December 1987, the General Assembly decided. That's the United Nations General Assembly decided to observe 26 June as the International Day against drug abuse and illicit trafficking as an expression of its determination to strengthen action and cooperation to achieve the goal of an international society free of drugs. And supported each year by individuals, communities, and various organizations all over the world, the global observance aims to raise awareness of the major problem that illicit drugs represent in our society. So the global drug problem presents a multifaceted challenge that touches the lives of millions worldwide, from individuals struggling with substance use disorders to communities grappling with the consequences of drug trafficking and organized crime. The impact of drug is far-reaching and complex. Central to addressing this challenge is the imperative to adopt a scientific evidence-based approach that prioritizes prevention and treatment, which is the theme for this year's International Day against drug abuse and illicit trafficking. So it's always marked on this particular day, 26th of June every year, to strengthen action and cooperation in achieving a world free of drug abuse. So this year's World Drug Day campaign recognizes that effective drug policies must be rooted in science, research, full respect for human rights, compassion, and a deep understanding of the social, economic, and health implications of drug abuse. If you remember, just this year, the National Assembly was able to pass a law with respect to how they can manage those who sell these drugs, into the issue of drug trafficking and the rest of it. And you know, the target is to say that, yes, at the end of the day, if you are found wanting of selling drugs, definitely death is the final ground for you. But then today we'll be joined by someone who has been in the community, trying as much as possible to see that, yes, the youth and the younger ones that are growing doesn't get themselves engaged with issues that has to do with drug abuse. And that's nobody but Mr. Lukman Eniton Aminu, who is also the Police Community Relation Committee member, PCRC National Headquarters. He'll be joining us from his base in Lagos to tell us more about their activity with respect to this particular day. So stay tuned while we go on this break.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be wielded by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
Welcome back from that break. And just before the break, I did inform you that we'll be joining Mr. Lukman and Aminu as part of our guest for this afternoon. But then before we invite him on board, if we all look back, virtually all weekends, we discovered that the Nigeria National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, under the Public Relations Office, always released data with respect to how Nigerians abuse drugs across the Federation. And that has also been drawing so much concern and in our society. And we've also noticed that yes, some state governors just yesterday carried out awareness campaign on this same particular issue. And that's the more reason why we need Mr. Eniton. Mr. Eniton, good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon edition.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me from your location, please?
Can I hear you clearly?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, I can't hear you clearly.
I can hear you very loud and clear. If you can hear me, I think we can go ahead with our conversation.
Network. Hello, I can hear you clearly.
Well, from my own end here, I can hear you. Please, can you just turn on, probably your mic is mute. Can you just increase the volume of your TV or of your sets, please?
Network.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, while Mr. Eniton is fixing that, we'll definitely have so much to discuss today on this particular issue, because we want to see that, yes, at the end of the day, we want to understand what the community does with respect to how they manage drug abuse, because most often the issue of armed robbery, kidnapping, all sorts of violence that is not that we always kick against comes up from the community. And in that community, you discover that the easiest way for them to get themselves into, that's the culprit now, into this particular act, is that they take hard drugs. And these drugs are drugs that are banned by the, even by NAFDAC, by Ministry of Health. These are not drugs that are good for human consumption. But then you see people going out there to make sure they get these drugs, because they are hard drugs. Sometimes they hide it for them to be able to sell it to people, and then when you take these drugs, you are no longer yourself. And recently we noticed that one of the entertainers we have in the country also shared his experience with respect to taking hard drugs, of which he is now a major campaigner against the use of hard drugs. So we would just like to hear Mr. Eniton's view. If you can hear us now, let us get your view with respect to this. Okay, pending when we get him back, we just want to ensure that, yes, we put things in order. And then recently we noticed that the National Assembly also carried out a major law to pass a major law, a major bill, sorry, I mean to say, with respect to the national, that's the DG of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, to say that, yes, those who are caught with the issue of trafficking, drug trafficking, illicit drug trafficking, will be properly dealt with by the law. So as a result of that, let us quickly get back to Mr. Eniton with respect to our conversation. Okay. Mr. Eniton, can you hear me from your location?
I can hear you, although it's breaking.
Okay, probably that's the network. But if you can hear my conversation properly, and then you can also feed us with your understanding of what we are discussing, then I think that would be good, because we can hear you clear and loud from your location. So can I just go ahead with the questions?
Okay, please, can you repeat the question again?
Okay, please, today is the International International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. And you've been in this particular PCRC. What are you guys doing with respect to the issue of drug abuse in our community?
Yes, we all know that. I'll say good afternoon, everyone, once again. Today is the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. And those are two major crimes that are interwoven and are usually interrelated in almost every situation we find ourselves. It is important to note that drug abuse is a very common menace in our society, and we cannot shy away from that fact. However, the abuse of drugs is a cause of, I would say, an effect of the situation in which we find ourselves, where so many people find a lot of things which they shouldn't be using. I wouldn't want to mention items, but precisely most of those items are items that usually send a signal to the brain, especially to the part of that takes enjoying sensation in the brain. So when someone takes an item and realizes, oh, it seems I'm enjoying it, and it's not something he is supposed to be taking from time to time, it would most likely get into it and begin to use it. And we usually have two types of drugs. I used to say we have medical drugs, and we have those that are medical drugs. Those that are medically recommended, most people usually abuse it, subject to the fact that they see it giving them some sensation, which naturally those sensations are meant to help reduce pain for people who are in pain or for people who have just undergone surgery. While people who are not into surgery or have not engaged in any surgery feel that that sensation is a sensation in which they want, in which they can hit their head on the wall and not feel pain. While someone who has gone through surgery had a lot of cuts and will continue to feel pain from time to time, needs those drugs just to subdue the pain. Also, we have those that are off-counter drugs, but not medical drugs. Those are, I call them science student combination. Combinations in which most young people in this part of the world mix some funny items together. I don't want to mention them. And eventually, they get similar sensation. They get similar stimulus in their brain. And because of that stimulus, they want to come back to it whenever they think they are down. They want to come back to it whenever they think, oh, they need something to make their brain look like it's enjoying or it's having a sensation of enjoyment. Why in actual fact, there is no serious enjoyment. And when we look at it in relation to illicit trafficking or to trafficking of drugs, I'll say the drug trade globally is a very big market because it's a multi-billion-dollar market in which people transport drugs illegally, get it to the wrong places, and eventually you see people use it and get some funny sensations. Those sensations can be disastrous to one's health if one is not using it according to medical recommendation. And you see a lot of people suffer from different type of diseases or different type of ailments due to the wrong use of these drugs. Let us also know that there is always a limit or a measure for use of drugs. And when one goes beyond the measure, then it's an abuse. When one uses what is not recommended, it's an abuse. When one makes a combination that is not medically recommended, it's also an abuse. And trafficking globally, it's a very serious matter that I'll say even Interpol and so many international organizations, security organizations, have been working seriously to see how we can stem trafficking of illicit drugs. I know for those who have been following NDLEA news in Nigeria, you would have seen several instances where they confiscate drugs worth millions, billions at times, and you still see people still going back to this trade. So it's a very big trade, it's a very big business. It's something people do much more illegally, but there's a legal way to it for those who want to do it in the regulated sector within the confines of the law. Thank you.
So, and I love the way you split this particular day, looking at it from the drug abuse angle and telling us more about what it means to say a drug has been abused. And also you move down, looking at the aspect of the illicit, that's the traveling of this drug from the point of production into hands where they are actually not a very good one, because when you produce these drugs and you know the impact or the effect of this drug on humans, you are not supposed to even start the production or to even talk of even trafficking this particular drug. So that's a very big one. But now let us deep down into this particular theme for this year. And this year's theme still stands on the issue of evidence-based. And then at what point can we say we have a full evidence that yes, most of those who are involved in this drug abuse can be brought to book?
Yes, in actual fact, we will not deny the fact that we have evidence that shows that people use these drugs without recommendation, and it's all over us. You can look into every community, every state, every local government. When you look into the nooks and crannies of such communities, you most likely find the spots. I can say in the 774 local governments we have in Nigeria, almost all the local governments have at least a spot where you can get to and you meet people who take these drugs illegally. You meet people who sell and trade in these drugs illegally. And that is the bad part of the good story, that it is here with us. We cannot shy away from it. Adults are using it, young people are using it. Even I would say secondary school students have begun to use it, because we began to see situations where students who you expect to be in secondary school, who are secondary school age students, have begun to misbehave, subject to the fact of whatever they might have done. And when you see the level at which they misbehave and the nature of the acts in which they do, you will come to realize that a sane person, a normal person, will not do that. You will not expect a normal person to go and be sniffing the bin. You will not expect a normal person to go and be sniffing the toilets. You will not expect a normal person to take water in the gutters and drink it and feel it's okay. And you never expect a normal person to see electric fire, electric current, and say yes, he wants to play with it because he's not in his right state of mind. And the funniest thing about those drugs is, based on the way those drugs work, they will see those particular items, they will see what they have, but their brain cannot process them at that point in time. The brain might take 3-5 minutes to process it, and that is after the wrong thing might have happened. So let's say someone is seeing a glass or a bottle containing hypo, bleach, and it's written on it clearly bleach. You can see bleach written on it, but because it's transparent, oh, this is water, let me take water. And eventually, that person takes the water, which is bleach, and it will take another 3-5 minutes for the brain to process rightly that what he read was actually bleach. And that might be too late. 3-5 minutes might be too late for one to be alive, and that might be at the wrong point in time. Same applies to those in which they smoke. You come to realize that even if they burn grass around you or burn paper around you, you will not enjoy or you will not appreciate the smoke because it will be disturbing you. But in this situation, you have people who have now become addicted to some certain smells that, yes, once they can smell this smoke, they feel much more comfortable. It engages in some reactions in their brain, and those reactions eventually will make their brain be enjoying what it's supposed to be running away from. So it's like your brain is saying something that could suffocate you, and your brain is now seeing it as something that you have to deal with or that you have to enjoy. So when you are enjoying suffocation, then we'll say you are already an addict. And there are processes to get out of addiction. The first is to be convinced that yes, what I am addicted to is a bit abnormal. Then the next is to go for medical care.
So this same theme, and I really enjoyed the way you put it. With respect to this particular theme for this year, and you just mentioned just now the issue of a medical care. But then before you get to medical care, definitely this year's focus is evidence-based, and evidence-based can only be proved using scientific method. But then at some point also, which we also understand that observation of person also, you can make recommendations sometimes based on observation before you go into the deeper process of trying to know the actual root of probably the kind of drugs the person is taking. Now, when you see people on the streets, probably from their physical appearance, you notice that, oh, these people seem not to be okay. Maybe because of the color of their lips or maybe their hands, you tend to like assume that these persons may be taking drugs. Is that enough for us to say, okay, this is also another method for us to actually separate them from those who are not actually taking drugs in our society?
Firstly, we have to understand clearly The physical look does not in any way, cannot be used in any way to categorize someone as a drug addict or as someone who has taken drugs. I'll say facial expressions are unique. The way we all look is unique. And at times, the way Mr. A looks might be different from the way Mr. B will look. And even for people who you think look normal on a normal day, at times when people are stressed, you see their eyeball turn red, you see their face change colors. At times, when people are hungry, you see similar reactions on their face. You even see their complete facial feature change for some people. When people fall sick at times, you see that they find it hard to keep the face of their shape. So we will not use all those little changes in the facial features to categorize them as someone who has taken drugs. But we must have, I'll say, an evidence that yes, this person has engaged in something that is having a sensation in the brain. We must be very sure of that. Firstly, whether when this person takes these particular drinks, he usually has this sensation. So when we see the reaction, which is subject to a drink, we can say, okay, this person is getting addicted to this. That is why you see I'm not using any specific drink particularly. So you see when some people get certain smoke, they begin to feel like, yeah, oh, this is the smoke they want to enjoy. Something that is supposed to be choking them is now something they are feeling they want to enjoy. We now begin to say, okay, yes, these are the type of things we can say, okay, it's sending a signal to the brain is reacting abnormally. What the brain should be rejecting, the brain is accepting it. Then we can now say, yes, this person is having a sign of addiction to X, Y, and Z. But facial features, dressing cannot be used in any way to categorize one as a drug addict or to classify anybody as someone who is into drugs. So it would be erroneous for us to do that. And evidence-based for this year is a really great challenge. I'll say the global community has decided to take that challenge up because in most communities, we don't have enough information, enough data to say this is the volume of people that get affected by drugs at this point in time in XYZ community. Let me use Nigeria as an example. Because we have an health system that does not use scientific data. In cases, most of our data are recorded on sheet of paper and are not inputted into systems where they can compare multiple hospitals simultaneously. We don't have adequate information, adequate data to say, okay, this is the percentage of the number of people that are admitted for drug-related incidences or drug-related illnesses in the last 1 month. And that is why I would say the thing for this year is also charging the government and private sector to see how we can improve our health system, at least data collection within the health system, so that every improvement in data collection, we can also at the back end use those data to compare and contrast what is the ratio of this incident to that, and at that point in time we can say yes, this is the particular percentage of drug-related incidents or drug-related illnesses in our hospitals on a daily basis. Thank you.
You've laid a very good one for us, and that will take us to the next question now. Looking at the kind of security system that we have in the country, those saddled with that particular responsibility of addressing illicit drug trafficking and drug abuse in the country, which is the NDLA, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, and also to an extent, majorly the police. These two security components play a major role in addressing drug abuse in the country. So, but then, when you look at the statistics now, so many people are saying there has been improvement. But from your own angle, what do you think of? I think we lost him there, but then we hope to get him back. I would love to hear his own idea of, or his perception with respect to what the NDLA is doing currently in the nation, if there have been significant improvement. And this is one aspect I also cover as a journalist, reporting issues that has to do with National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. And indeed, we've seen so many evidence, but then let us also have your perception about this particular conversation. So let us go back to Mr. Lukman Eniton. Please, if you are there, can you just respond to this? Okay, while we are trying to get him back, we'll definitely raise so many. And just yesterday, so many organizations, even here in the FCT today, we're expecting the girl, that's a movement for the boy child, to also have an organized program for the boy child, to see that yes, this particular organization manages issues that has to do with children in the secondary school and trying to get into university, and then trying as much as possible to also give them orientation on why they shouldn't go into the issue of drugs, and most especially abusing drugs or even collecting or buying from someone in our society is not the best. So there are key issues that we actually need to look out for whenever we are discussing the issue of drug abuse. But then we'll be coming back with a major conversation still with Mr. Lukman Eniton. He will be joining us just after this break.
Mr. President, last Saturday, the country which I have the honor to represent, the Federation of Nigeria, became independent and assumed the rights and the responsibilities of a sovereign state. Today, Nigeria has been admitted into the United Nations organization and assumes still more responsibilities. I wish to make our position plain beyond any matter of doubt as regards the African continent. We in Nigeria appreciate the advantages which the size of our country and of its population give us, but we have absolutely no aggressive intentions. We shall never impose ourselves upon any other country and shall treat every African territory, big or small, as our equal, because we honestly feel that it is only on that basis of equality that peace can be maintained in our continent. We in Nigeria are a populous country. There are about 40 million of us, and our territory is relatively large. We are willing to learn before we rush into the field of international politics. But we are totally unwilling to be diverted from the ideals which we think true. That is the reason, Mr. President, why we in Nigeria shall not be found to align ourselves as a matter of routine with any particular bloc. Indeed, I hate the very idea of blocs existing at all in the United Nations. It seems to me to be a contradiction in terms. When we hear the world crying out for peace, we may receive the inspiration to deal with these intractable problems and be able really to devote all our resources to the advancement of mankind by applying those eternal truths which will inevitably persist long after we ourselves are utterly forgotten. Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome back from that break. We've been discussing with Mr. Lukman Eniton Aminu, Lagos State, part of the PCREC group in Lagos State, from the headquarters there. And we've been having major issues with respect to this particular day, the World Drug Day. And he has been informing us about the current states that we are in now, and trying as much as possible to explain to us the impact of drug abuse and also illicit drug trafficking in the country. So, Mr. Lukman, you're welcome back, and we know you had network glitches there. But then let me quickly ask you the question I asked before the break. What's your assessment so far of the role of the Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement Agency and that of the police in combating this issue of illicit drugs and trafficking?
Okay, yes, thank you very much. The NDLEA, being a lead agency in the issue of drug trafficking, drug use, and control across the Federation, is trying its best. But I'll say there is more that needs to be done because presently it's more of enforcement that the NDLA is doing. While I think they need more of engagement, although they have online engagement, I think on a weekly basis on Twitter on Fridays, but there is more that needs to be done. For us at the Police Community Relations Committee, we've taken up the challenge to take the sensitization down to the grassroots. We've been engaging tertiary institutions, secondary school, and community markets and the likes on various sensitization programs, just to ensure that we also stem the tide of the rising drug use and consumption of drugs illegally. Also, I know there is need for the NDLA to have a much more elaborate working engagement with the Ministry of Health or with all health agencies within the nation, so that they can get data of what comes in that are drug related and how they can also track it. Because at times when you are tracking the big weights and there are a lot in the system, you might get some of the big weights and a lot are in different places. But when you can track those people that usually get affected by it medically or mentally and are taken to hospitals, you most likely track those who are selling it on the streets, and you'll be able to at least reduce the tide. And in most cases, when the enforcement is more to people who sell it or who traffic it in large quantity, those who have it in small quantity might not realize how grievous and how dangerous what they have in their custody is. But when you target those who sell it also in small quantities, then most likely you'll be getting your message to the grassroots. Because naturally, when the enforcement team goes into any community, there'll be I'll say fast news within that community, a very strong rumor within that community that NDLA we are in today, and this and this and these places were places they touched, and these are the type of drugs in which we are getting out of that environment. However, there is more that needs to be done by the NDLA. We will not rule that out. Also, all media agencies need to also work with the NDLA. Just like I said, I know they are having a regular engagement on Fridays on Twitter. Media houses can also help them by reporting whatever is being discussed in their weekly engagements on the global media space. If it's in let's say our daily news, we just I mark 2-3 minutes to talk about drugs or drug abuse on a daily basis. I know the message is going to go far. The information that needs to go around will go around as fast as possible, and also it will help us reduce the illegal and illicit use of both drug and trafficking of the drugs.
The RC, you've stated that there is this collaboration you have with primary and secondary school to see that yes, even from the start of it, them being in primary school where they have this idea of what drug is all about, and also in secondary school where they start making use of these particular drugs, you've already created that relationship for you to be able to abstain them from carrying out this act. But then if you look at what the NDLA have been doing, of which you stated that every Friday they have this engagement, are you saying that there should be more when it comes to the issue of there should be more to what they can do? What are the other aspects you feel they can get the community fully involved in this particular fight?
Okay, just like I said earlier, the NDLA is having a weekly engagement online. There could be more the NDLA could do as a lead agency in issues related to drug abuse and trafficking. And just like I proposed initially, they could engage media houses to ensure that on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, for every news that is being read by media houses, 1, 2, 3 minutes is a mark just to discuss about drug and drug abuse, or just for a sensitization on drug and drug abuse. That way the information will go very fast, will go around very fast, and if possible, will go as far as expected. Also, there is need for, I'll say, organizations like the DJs and some social related environments to also have good collaboration with the NDLA. So we'll talk about clubs, we'll talk about hotels, that they need to also have engagement with the NDLA so that from time to time, the NDLA can come and let's say when they have parties in such clubs or hotels, to just come and do a 1, 2, 3, 5 minutes engagement with the audience, because we will not rule that out, that we cannot steer away from the fact that a lot of people use these drugs and do not know the extent of damage in which these drugs can cause. Just like I once said in a sensitization, these drugs can kill you as these drugs kills people. These drugs can make people mad as this drug can make you mad as these drugs have made people mad, and the likes and the likes. So people will just think we are just enjoying the sensation and that is all. They might not know that it will eventually get to a stage that it can either make them mad or either kill them. So at times there is need for continuous engagement with community stakeholders. And when we talk about community stakeholders, the market women, the chiefs, and royal setting in the environment, and every major stakeholder. The school is also a stakeholder, and that is why for us at PCLC, Police Community Relations Committee, we've taken the school as a major stakeholder and the market as another stakeholder. The youth committee of the PCLC across the federation is targeting the tertiary institution, secondary schools, and primary schools. That's our major focus for the youth committee. So we have a youth committee that focuses on those particular groups, and wherever we are going to discuss drug abuse with those particular set of people, in most cases, we do it with NDLEA. So there's still more that needs to be done. A lot of policy work also needs to be done behind the scene. I know we still have some policy lapses that the government also needs to work on, and hopefully in the nearest future, our community will be free of drugs. Just like I used to say, a drug-free world is possible.
Very possible. But then let me quickly hear a view on this particular one. I know just recently the National Assembly passed a particular bill with respect to death sentence for those who are caught in this particular act of illicit drug trafficking. What's your view about that?
In actual fact, the proposition by the National Assembly is a nice proposal, but we should understand the environment in which we work, or the environment in which we operate, an environment in which anything that has to relate with death sentence goes through an additional procedure. It's a different case of a judge just saying, okay, we've convicted you of this, all evidences are clear that you are involved in this and you are a major culprit, and eventually, okay, this is the punishment according to the law, and that punishment is to be meted according to the judge. When the judge does that, anything that has to do with death sentence usually have to go for executive signing, and that is where we have a problem with our law. It should not be going for executive signing. All I will expect when there is anything like a death sentence or a crime that is related to a death sentence is just for the judge to, on his judgment paper or on a judgment sheet, to put a date for that sentence to be implemented, in which the executioners will take it from there. But taking that sentence to the office of the governor of every state for the government to sign is where we have a problem with everybody that is on the death row today. And eventually, which is what usually happens, they will most likely be pardoned after some years behind bar, which might eventually not achieve the goal of that sentence. But when people are sentenced and you realize that people who are being sentenced go for life and they don't come back to the community, that is when a death sentence will become a realistic sentence. But today, sending the death sentence to the office of the governor to sign their deaths is a wrong decision, because in most cases, if the governor is to sign the death sentence of someone who is related to somebody, people who are related to him or her will go and meet Mr. Governor. Mr. Governor, you want to kill our people. And that is why we've been unable to get anybody sentenced, especially for crimes that are very grievous, crimes that are very dangerous, crimes that are disastrous to our community, and crimes that have been destroying our society.
That's a very beautiful one. Looking at the loopholes in that particular bill, it's very, very critical. And you stated it very clear. There are so many bureaucracy with respect to that, and that will definitely affect the end result of or what the NDLA seem to be targeting at the end of the day, in order for them to be able to reduce those in trafficking of illicit drugs and then drug abuse. But now, let me ask you this before we just have just a few minutes left. When you look at the issues that comes up during election, very soon we are having some elections just around the corner there. Those states is there giggling, and some other states. Looking at the way people make use of drugs, most especially thugs, during this particular election period is one major issue. And sometimes when these people are caught, probably by the police, they will link it up to one or two politicians and the rest. And these are the same politicians who also make sure that, yes, we have these laws on ground. So what's your conception with this particular attitude of thuggery during election being fueled by the use of drugs and trafficking of drugs at that particular point in time?
Well, the fact is electoral violence and drug abuse has a very strong relationship, because it's not for a sane person to come into the community, see heavy security presence, and still feel he wants to make trouble in the presence of heavy security presence. So when you see such incidences, you know that whoever will be making trouble in such environments, will be causing mayhem in such environment, is someone who will most likely not be in his right state of mind. And that is why for those to get, or for those touts to get out of their right state of mind, where in their right state of mind, they will be scared of the security agencies, they will be scared of being arrested, they will be scared of being taken behind bars. They will have to get something to make themselves high, and which is usually drugs. And that is where that point of, I'll say the middle point of that crisis. So in actual fact, it's only an appeal I can make in regards to that. I'll make an appeal to political parties, to election stakeholders, and also to young people simultaneously, especially those who will be victims in that particular situation. That as much as you can support any candidate you like, as much as you have the right to facilitate with any candidate you like, you don't have the right to engage in things that are abnormal or in things that can endanger your life. Because the protection of life and properties is also a responsibility of government, and is for individuals, we also have a responsibility. Just like I used to say, it is the life that is left that we eat plantain. So whoever understands the fact that he or she needs to live to eat plantain, which that government will be given, or the goodies of that government, should also ensure that he or she does not take things that will make that person high and eventually misbehave.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lukman, for joining us this afternoon. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to give to you for you to be able to continue with that particular thought line. But then definitely we'll always like to hear from you with respect to the advances we are making, and we hope that, yes, we'll have a drug-free society. Wish you also have the same thoughts, making sure that, yes, Nigerians will get rid of the issue of drug abuse and also illicit drug trafficking. It's nice always hearing from you. The PCRC is a major stakeholder in this particular fight, and we hope you guys will continue the good work you are doing in our community.
Thank you very much. A drug-free world is possible.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Lukman Eniton Aminu, for joining us. This is how far we can go today. A drug-free world is indeed a very possible one, even here in Nigeria. Thank you.